Today we're going to talk about be careful who you talk to about college planning. Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually out in Kentucky on a farm, although this is just the upstairs room of the farmhouse, so it's not a very exciting view. But a nice calm week after the craziness of the ACT and the SAT, and so taking some time to recharge. It's really nice.
And we all have to do that. That's good. I was just up visiting my mom, and it's they don't always have the best Facebook Live backgrounds to deal with, so you just kind of have to roll with it. But it's also a great opportunity to be able to still go and see and do things, and still be able to get together like we're doing today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to actually just get to be on a trip anywhere. It's been, you know, very, we've only had a couple and only very recently, so that's great. Yeah, so let's talk about like why you should be careful talking to people about college planning.
Well, let's talk about where a lot of people get information about college planning today.
Yeah.
So, I always tell this story about sitting at the ball field, and one of my friends looked over at me and said, "Hey, have you signed Chris up for SAT and ACTs?" And I was like, "No." And I had no idea I needed to do that. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, my head spun off my body, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. I don't know what I'm doing."
Mhm.
That's how sometimes this gets started.
Absolutely. And I think that's the main thing is just to be aware that if you just talk to your friends, right, or just people you know at school, or you're out at some school event and you start talking to them, it's just naturally going to make you feel inadequate and
Mhm.
going to lead you to thinking that you haven't done everything. And you might get just like information that really is only applies to that student, or if information that's just opinions. And people will say, oh, you don't need to worry about the FAFSA. You don't even need to fill that out, or you don't need to do this, or just apply to these two schools, right? None of
Or
that
this is
is applicable
exactly
to your
what you
school.
need to do, not realizing that,
Right.
every kid's different and every family's different and every situation's different. So, there's no perfect information out there. This is exactly what you have to do. It's all dependent on your family and the decisions you want to make.
Oh, absolutely. And so I think what a lot of people do is like, I know a lot of people have Facebook groups that they're in, like the parents of this high school, or maybe even moms of this high school. I know that there are a lot of those groups. And so the thing is, there's probably some good information in there. There's lots of good information there, but there's also bad information there. But also, it's just going to make you feel bad about yourself because there's always, how people are on Facebook. They're like, my kid has a perfect score at everything and blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, well, what chance does my kid have if they're not perfect at everything, right? And so it can be really demoralizing. And if you add that out to those, there are big Facebook groups about college planning, and there's lots of good information in them. But man, you're going to sure run across a whole lot of posts like that. And it's
Oh,
just
no.
demoralizing.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people, again, chiming in with their experience, which, hey, it's awesome. You know what?
Yeah.
It's great to have those resources. I love reading the posts about what should I take for my kid's dorm room, and
Yeah.
how, they've got a list a mile long, and you're like, I put in
Yeah.
there.
I sent 3 towels and a, and a
Oh,
cooler.
for so many times I put in, if you have a boy, let them put their clothes together. You send them with a mattress topper and be done. you
Right.
know, because the rest either doesn't fit or it's going to come back in its package. Don't
Yeah.
even
Never used.
cleaning
Oh
supplies.
my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, and so that's the thing. So all this information that you get from other people is that tells you, oh, these are things I need to go research for myself, but don't take anything as true, right? Just go research it and
Yeah.
start with like the basics, right? Like you've got to choose a college, things like that, right? Of course, if you've got the resources and the time and a kid who's interested enough that you could connect up with, a college admissions person, that's great. You can work with college admissions consultants starting in like ninth grade. But if you're not doing that, right, find people who actually do have experience in it. I mean, I know Kristin and I are always happy to just answer questions. I'm a certified admissions consultant. Kristin helps students with finding their strengths and figuring out how to survive college and what would be a good major for them and what kind of career would make them happy. But you can just start researching this yourself based on all the things you read. Right. One of my favorite websites is this one from the U.S. Department of Education called the College Scorecard. which is collegescorecard.ed.gov. And it's literally just has all that same data that you might find in a book of colleges or things like that, and you can go in there and look up a college. It'll tell you how, what their acceptance rate is, what their graduation rate is, how much they cost per year on average, what kind of financial aid they give, and what their SAT and ACT and GPA ranges are for students who are entering. And that right there is kind of the starting point, right? That's how you can really get going on it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I just put it into the chat. I'm going to make sure it came up because some things are acting wonky right now.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
okay, I see it.
Make sure I spelled it right. collegescorecard.ed.gov.
That's it. Yeah, right. Department of Education. That's a really neat thing. And so I think that's kind of how you can start, is just go looking and reading about things, right? And saying, oh, this one costs this much. This one costs this much, right?
Right. And Bobby, going to the source is always your best route. I like to tell parents too, I love this resource just because it has so much information about a school. We've also talked about collegedata.com.
Yes, collegedata.com is, yeah, that's a great website.
And what's nice about I think College Data too, is it puts it in just a really nice, easy to digest format.
Absolutely, right. And that's great. And also, I've always liked the Princeton Review's website. The Princeton Review sells a book that is like, the best 528 colleges or something like that, right? And that book is neat because it has quotes from students who attend the college. So you get that same data that we're talking about, right? SAT, ACT score ranges, graduation rate, selectivity, and all that. Then they add in quotes from the students and things like that, like which colleges have the best, libraries, which college have the best workout facilities, which colleges have the prettiest campus or the best food. So PrincetonReview.com is a really nice place to go as well for researching colleges. And then, and talk to people that absolutely. I mean, that's I think the most important way to start out is if you start with that. And, another thing I think that's really good is to learn how the college admissions process is going to go. Pick out any college and just sit down and read their admissions website and what they require freshmen, right? And so that right there, you're like, okay, this one college, I'm going to need all these things. Because again, if you talk to the people, they might be like, oh, nobody cares about recommendation letters, right? My college said they were optional. Well, right? They're required at most colleges and they are important, but you'll see when you actually go through and say, okay, write down a list. Here are the things I would need for this college. Look at a couple more colleges, and then you start getting a feel for it.
Yes, absolutely. And the other gem that I don't think a lot of parents know about is going to the financial aid section of any college you're interested in and find out about their assured scholarships. So this is free money that you can get. And it's a great way for you to really understand what it's going to cost you to go to that school, especially if you're going to go out of state, because a lot of times they give you exactly what grade point you need and exactly what ACT or SAT test score you need to get what they call assured scholarship. So you're going to get that money for sure. And it pretty much means your kid's going to get in.
Absolutely. I think this is the most important thing out of the bunch, because if you just, like I remember in the old days, like, when I was going through the old days, when I was applying to college many, many years ago, they, it was sort of like, well, just hope the college gives you a scholarship, right? Or, then like, 15, 20 years ago, people were saying, oh, go to this website or that website. And they list hundreds and hundreds of scholarships, thousands and thousands of scholarships you can apply for. But that's just this big mess. Go to the college and find the scholarships that they will tell you have defined qualifications. If you score, I get so many students like this who say, I have a 27 on the ACT. This college says if I get a 29, I will get in-state tuition, or I will get this large scholarship. Then they go take the test till they, tutor until they are scoring above 29, take the test, get the score, done. And yeah, if you've got the assured scholarship, there's almost no question that you'll be accepted, as long as there's nothing else, unusual that's very bad in your application. So yeah, that's really the most important thing. And I think this is the thing. these are things you find by going to the source, right?
Right.
You go to
And
the
I think,
college's website,
yeah.
go to collegedata.com, go to collegescorecard.gov, right?
Yep. And just one last thing on that. I think the other
Yeah.
thing is it takes a lot of the worry and that stress out of all of this planning, right? If you know, I get these scores, I get this, here's what it's going to cost. Think about all the check marks that's helping a family with, that they're like, okay, I don't have to stress about if you're going to get in. So yeah, I love all this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, I saw a post on one of those big college planning Facebook groups the other day where somebody said that they applied to 4 or 5 colleges that they knew they weren't going to be able to afford, even if they got accepted, and then just kind of hoped that there would be some scholarships, and there weren't any. And it was so devastating to the student to
Mhm.
get these acceptances to colleges that they couldn't afford. I mean, that's not the way to do it. Find that information out up front.
Yes. And think about all the energy that you put into applying to a school.
Oh my
And,
gosh,
there's a
it's so
lot.
much work.
Yeah. And the money, not for
Yeah,
nothing, you still have to
exactly.
pay application fees. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, Bobby, any closing thoughts on?
I think that's it. I think it's just a great idea to, like, go and talk to everybody, but just, go and do your research. I think we've all learned that over the recent years that that's the way to go about things. And I think the whole point is this is how to make the process less stressful. Right.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. Well, great. We'll see you next week. This is really fun.